Hello and welcome back to Abnormal Psychology. My name is Sean Prober and I'm here with Marley Morrow. Let's get going. So, I guess just to get into our backgrounds, because we've had some fan requests for asking just kind of a little bit more about our background. And so just to start from me, I got my bachelor's degree in forensic psychology from John Jay back in 2009. So if any of you bloodhounds are out there, definitely reach out. And forensic psych is very interesting because you're always talking about different serial killers. You're always dealing with wild crimes. There are a lot of interesting ones. We even did a bit into actual kind of investigation techniques. So patterns of bullet fire, how to determine the order of bullets and where they came from, the trajectory. I could pull a fingerprint, for instance, and I could tell you if a hair is an animal or a human or synthetic, and so just that. So lots of useful stuff. And then I got my master's in experimental psychology from Adelphi University on Long Island. After that, bounced around in a little nonprofit world for a while before eventually just jumping out into a marketing career. And Marley, who are you?
Who am I? So I got my my bachelor's in psychology from Ohio State, and then I came down here to Florida to get my master's in science in experimental psychology. And I focused a lot on like deception and like nonverbal communication stuff.
No, that's a good thing to add. Yeah, I actually did a lot with linguistics, kind of breaking down speeches of different political orientations and seeing the trends there. So, yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit. So when we're being ridiculous, we can at one point we were being academics.
Yeah, so we do have some psychology background. And one thing that we've both been a fan of for a couple of years now is talking about different conspiracy theories. And I think the psychology of like conspiracy theories and like the people who get wrapped up in them is pretty interesting. I know we both like to, dabble in believing conspiracy theories from time to time, so it's not like we are strangers to like what could make somebody want to believe a conspiracy theory.
So I guess the most common assessment of like that whole phenomenon of people embracing conspiracy theories, the one I've always heard, which does make a lot of sense, is that there's a lot of actual chaos in the world. And nobody has that much control. You always hear about these, we always grew up hearing about Bernanke being this kind of like wizard economist and having the Federal Reserve understanding everything. And then you have the recessions and you have disaster after disaster, and you kind of realize, well, nobody's really an expert.
No.
And, in foreign policy, you always hear about this and that. I think the more you study foreign policy, the less you actually have any idea what you should do. So all of these things are so difficult that it's almost nice to think that there is something that's holding it all together. That all the horrors, there's something out there that's in control. It's not just random. It's not just this kind of nameless, faceless mob of feelings that
you'll never get the answer to. It's more of, as humans, we like to have certainty, even though in the world it's not very common to have certainty. So we like to invent these things, these stories, or somebody that we respect and listen to tells us a story, and instead of like looking into it, we kind of just believe it because we want an answer.
That's a funny thing, because when you see who's popular out there, who disseminate conspiracy theories, they're all pretty impressive speakers. Mm-hmm. And I think our kind of monkey brain, it makes this assessment like, this guy's smart.
Yeah.
This guy uses these words. He has a certain way of speaking.
They're like politicians.
Yeah, very, very similar. And we just overlook it and say, oh, yeah, that's...
I think nowadays it's even more, like, I guess I wouldn't say, like, more difficult, but it's hard to know, like, what is truth and what is not. There's so much information out there on social media, and even, like, when you Google something mm-hmm. or look up something, it's hard to know, like, what to believe and what not to believe, even if they have references. How do you know you can trust those references? And this whole, like, area that we're in right now, I think a lot of people are confused and don't know what to believe. And because of that, you kind of, like, give into these conspiracy theories a little bit more. I know, like, I have.
Yeah, it's a breeding ground for that kind of distrust, right?
Yeah.
I guess distrust is the breeding ground of conspiracy theories. And the more we have evidence, I think for a lot of Americans kind of in the post 9/11 world had a reassessment, which probably started all the way back in Vietnam, of the general goodness of government. You have that in America, you kind of have that almost fable-like story of the very, very evil Hitler and
mm-hmm.
takeover and World War II, and America stopped them, and etc. But when you start getting into kind of imperialist behaviors, and you start to have WikiLeaks, you start to hear these stories, leaked emails, leaked documents, and both political parties playing off each other to make you lose trust over the other, and you end up having trust for no one.
Exactly.
And then you're online one day and you see some guy who seems like he's got his head on straight and sounds smart and sounds
You're
clever.
Like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there might be. I've never been to Antarctica. I've heard a lot of lies from the people in charge. So maybe this is a lie.
Exactly, and there are, like, weird facts that let's just, like, talk about this
mm-hmm.
Antarctica one. So didn't you say that, like, there's a treaty where nobody can, like, own or take over Antarctica? Like,
yeah, the nobody's allowed to, I guess, monopolize it. That scientists of the different areas go and can try to do some kind of experiments and different things. Kind of the history of the Antarctica thing, most of it will get you to Admiral Byrd, who was, I believe he was the first guy to cross the Atlantic by himself in a plane. So it was like a real cool guy. And he went in Operation High Jump to Antarctica. And nobody really knows what happened there. It was very, very top secret. People speculate on, like, Nazi bases and hollow earth. And we'll get more into that. But the most interesting thing for me is, obviously, this guy is a high credibility figure. Kind of a legit admiral, legit, mm-hmm. Just brave American soldier, seemed like a great stand-up guy. And he came back and he was quoted as of talking about large masses of green fields. He also said that there was coal and uranium and all the minerals that are available, and then just nothing more about it.
He just wouldn't talk about it anymore?
Yeah. And people think he was censored and stopped by the government, but this very high credibility person did say that there were these green fields. They have these articles that he did an interview in a Chilean paper. And then he was on TV on this cool show. You could find it on YouTube really easily, and he talks about how many minerals were present.
How would he have found the minerals?
So I believe he went, and he and his people actually flew all the way across Antarctica. They wanted to see everything.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that it was like summertime and that there were like certain parts that were green?
As far as we know, it's all that snowy.
Is it supposed to be snowy all year?
Yeah. That up there, it's just kind of this barren land, and we never talk about that area as a place that we're gonna to get minerals from.
It's a continent, and I mean, like during the dinosaur times, like when it was really hot and the ocean was hot, it probably wasn't icy, right? Or at least like not all of it.
Very likely. Yeah, very likely that it wasn't.
So I mean, there's probably like so much stuff there, like hidden under the ice.
Yeah, that's the thing. You really could be anything, and I think that's where conspiracies come from. Of just that's a weird story that this guy went, somebody that you definitely would trust, and he's saying he saw these things, and then we never really hear anybody talking about it again. And you start to wonder.
He's making it sound too good, and then all the countries would want to like fight over it.
Exactly.
That's probably what happened.
So Antarctica has a huge role to play. Just before we get into that, I thought it was so the distinction between Antarctica and like the North Pole. The Arctic, which we're laughing because I once screwed that up in an article for a client.
People were very angry about
People
it.
were very furious. I wasn't the expert now, and then as I am now on it. But I really didn't know this until just the other day. So Antarctica in the south is an actual giant landmass with that ice over it. I believe the North Pole is just like a bunch of ice.
Yeah. But,
So
I mean, do we 100% know that? I'm not really sure.
No, definitely.
Do you know anything?
No, and that's the point.
And that's why conspiracy theories catch people.
Did you hear about this relates to Antarctica and Admiral Byrd, the hollow Earth theory?
Yes.
That there's another world that's almost on the other side of the course. So if you can imagine, we're on this side. If you can imagine somebody underneath, just, maybe 100 miles, not even.
And there's a whole nother...
And then they're standing in the same way. But they're apparently better than us.
They're mole people, but they're really smart.
Yeah, in all of the videos that I've seen, all the people who have claimed to be there, they always go for the same theme, that they're Nordic looking. That they're almost giants, they're all blonde.
Well, why would they be?
I guess the Northmen people were were the first to go and find the entrance just because they were closer.
Well, after this amount of time, you'd think they'd all look like Gollum.
Well, that's the thing. In the theory, the core of the Earth almost operates as a sun. So when they're standing on their base and looking upward, they're seeing the shiny thing.
Oh, well, then that's definitely impossible. It sounds impossible.
And I guess I don't have the physics knowledge to really dispel it.
I mean, with the plate tectonics and all of that, it just doesn't. It doesn't.
Unless
seem
it was just all BS.
Unless it's just a huge cave that people live in.
Yeah.
That'd be a cold cave there.
And I think you'd have to have within this small. If we're all hollow, it wouldn't make much sense unless that crust was so heavy.
Yeah.
That we would be able to have the gravitational pulls
exactly.
that we have if we were this hollow weird one. So unless all of that is fake.
Hollow Earth is about as credible as flat Earth. It just doesn't make sense.
Now, flat Earth, just to even go further, within the flat Earth, if you go far enough, if you sail far enough, you might not fall off the world. You'll hit into Antarctica. So Antarctica in the hollow Earth theory is a kind of shell, kind of a boundary.
Oh my God, it's so stupid.
So no matter where you go, you're going to hit.
I hope I'm not offending anybody.
There are a lot of them. Yeah, I guess the best, I'm trying to think of the best evidence for these things. I couldn't tell you I know the best evidence of it. A few of the ones that I saw, and this is like the most common video with them, is you kind of pick a mark out there. You need a lot of clearance for this. And you get the measurement for them, and based on the curvature, there are things that you shouldn't be able to see. That shouldn't be at a certain height. If you imagine like looking out on the horizon and you see a big pole, a big like lighthouse or something. If you could imagine if we were smart enough with our math to take into account curvature and determine how much of that lighthouse we should see. And then they're saying that they're seeing too much, but there are...
Are there like scientists that say that?
Yeah, well, no, the scientists actually discuss kind of it's an optical illusion kind of based on the ocean or the water, that it's able to refract light. And this way that you get a little bit extra around the curve.
That's true.
So there are people, but yeah, when they're
when you look at the road and it looks like there's water on it.
Yeah, when you're presenting it confidently, you say, "Oh, damn,
I'll believe anything."
He just proved it. He just took a picture with his Nikon and sorted it out. And then there is one about you'll see one about the airlines, that there are flights that shouldn't be as long as they are. But that one's been pretty much debunked. Sometimes you go in weird ways, I one time went from Florida to Ohio to get to Vegas.
It takes forever.
Yeah, so sometimes...
To get to Ohio, it takes like 3 hours. But then you go to New York and you get there in 2.5.
Yeah, it's wild.
And it's more north.
Yeah. Well, maybe
I guess you go faster over water, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe Ohio's closer.
I don't know. I remember that one map we saw that...
The real map? Like the...
Yeah, there's like a real map of the world, and it's like distorted from the one that we've actually like studied.
Yeah, we shrunk Africa, I think, is most of it. It's like the southern hemisphere is completely distorted to be very small.
Yeah.
And then we have massively increased the size of Europe. And it's like in those old statues when you would highlight the parts. Like if somebody did something, I'm thinking of David. If the statue of David by Michelangelo, his hands are big because they want you to think about like that. He's like holding his slingshot. And it's a kind of I guess they're using the same thing for their map making. It's like, all right, these are the most important parts.
Yeah.
So we'll keep.
They might not have had the best measurements back in the day when they created those maps.
Yeah, it's wild though to actually look at it and see that you could fit the United States and Europe and a number of other countries within Africa.
Yeah.
You don't realize just how massive it is.
It's like, I know we haven't really had any like good evidence of aliens, and I don't know how much
Lately, some of the best though. I mean, within the last...
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the military, like people seeing flying objects, but I think there's always like a possibility that could just be like military and technology that they don't want us to know they have yet.
But why are these why make the big deal about like declassifying it and then showing
to distract us from like the truth, to like give us like little pieces of information so we don't know like what's really happening? I don't know.
See, the theory I see a lot is that there's a lot of truth to this. That if you just went out, like, let's say it was 1965 and everybody's just chilling in America, and all of a sudden they find out that there are legit aliens. maybe we wouldn't even have a country. Like, at all. Maybe the world would just crumble. I think that there's like a legit possibility of that. That people, I don't know.
People just couldn't take it.
Could you? Like, what would you do tomorrow if aliens existed and they had visited like the world, and like there's going to be like some ongoing discussion between our world leaders and aliens?
I'd be like, oh, well, I don't have to work anymore. It's going to be over.
See, I think that that's what a lot of people are doing. So that almost lends itself to why these kind of conspiracies are so believable, because you do think about humans. And you're like, no, maybe they shouldn't tell us. Even if they did know, it would almost make sense to keep it hidden.
It's like Men in Black. They're using disguises.
Yeah, and they're just everywhere around us.
But, I mean, if you take a telescope and you look around, there's nothing close by that could inhabit life. And they would have to find a way to, fly faster than anything that we've ever had and have some kind of fuel that they don't have to carry on the thing that like somehow is created in the machine.
I guess there's no reason to believe that 100 billion years ago a society like we have existed and has been developing all these years. That a planet 100 billion years young.
Think about how much smarter they would be.
They could be. It would be funny if they just stayed ignorant.
Yeah, like how we are. It's like we're starting to resort back.
Like, imagine if we had just the craziness of our world history.
Yeah.
Of just constant killing, but it went on for 10,000 years.
Wow. Be like Mad Max. What if it's like that?
I would hope not. I think the hope is just that if you have unlimited time, that you should be able to figure it out. And I think it's kind of our projection, as there is and some people deny this, but there is like a general movement of things getting better. Whether or not there was a society in the flat earth or the hollow earth or, Atlantis, kind of
I
these
guess
like
you
future
see
ones.
it more because of the news and stuff when somebody does something crazy. But in general, they always say that we're getting less violent.
More people can read now than ever. More people can eat now than ever in different places. So there's reason to be optimistic a little bit.
And that's our positive outlook.
Yes. And it might not happen in our lifetime, but definitely in the next 10,000 years, racism's going to be gone.
Let's hope so.
No, that's kind of, I've been anxiously awaiting the Webb telescope pictures.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Didn't we get some initial ones?
You got these like little tiny blips of, it was like what they were using to align. Like, I think it was their alignment process that they were just seeing it. So I'm not sure if anything like legit's come out.
And
but
it's trying to see back in time, right?
Mm-hmm. But it is amazing when you think that within the last couple of generations that we have a completely different conceptualization of the universe.
I think that's something you have to always keep in mind when learning about research or anything in science, is that as much as I believe science is like always developing. You never 100% know. People used to put like radiation cream on their face to look younger.
Making toys out of it.
Yeah, we used to make dye out of arsenic. Like, there's a lot of things that we did and we didn't even know it was bad until later on. So
yeah, always being a little humble.
We always have to develop our way of thinking. You can't get too stuck.
Edwin Hubble. But that lends itself to the conspiracy theories, were these findings that you have almost an infinite number of different opportunities to develop life at different points. So I feel like that's definitely gives the conspiracy theory a lot of hope. You almost have, not proof, but you can almost start to talk about likelihood of.
Yep. Anything that you don't have a definite answer for always leaves room for conspiracies.
And that's the great thing about YouTube.
Yeah.
Right now, all of those people can have a voice.
Like us.
Yes. And voice these. And I'm trying to think if there are any other ones.
I think that's good for now.
Okay.
We can talk about something
Yeah, I
else.
don't really know the deep, dark history of reptilians
No.
as much as...
I did just recently go to Colorado and went to the Denver airport. You remember we wrote that story about all the conspiracy theories about that airport, and I couldn't find anything cool.
You didn't see like the portraits?
I saw a couple, but they weren't like that crazy looking.
Yeah, they're definitely select with the ones that they present.
Yeah, in the main areas.
When they have that, did you see the blue horse?
No, I didn't. I didn't even see where that was.
The blue horse?
I guess it's in the front.
I think I saw it when I was up there. Kind of like...
It is kind of weird that they have like a blue horse, but Colorado is a very like little country place.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it's just a normal horse.
Yeah, they don't seem like devil worshippers to
No.
me, or the people that would harbor the global elite when a nuclear fallout happens. That was always the theory. I think like the Queen and a few other people bought property around the Denver airport, so it got incorporated into that weirdness. Yeah. And before you knew
it is like central.
Yeah.
So I guess if something happened on the coasts, you'd be pretty safe. Like I don't think anybody's trying to bomb the Midwest.
No. If Colorado should just burn coal all day, like just not a care in the world about rising tides.
No.
They could have the tides rise almost a mile, and they'd be just fine.
They'd be fine no matter what happened.
They could just have a nice little island with it. But yeah, they're definitely some things there. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week.